Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Longbox Chronicles Month here on Reaction and Review. Tonight, guys, I'm taking a look at an action film from 1993. That movie is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. Now, there's a long story about this one. I loved the first two Turtles films growing up. They were a very active part of my childhood. And around the time that the trailer started running for Turtles 3, I would see him, and I really wasn't all that fascinated by him. In fact, I really think it has to do with the concept. The concept is that the Turtles travel back to ancient Japan, and to me that still doesn't sound like a real good concept for a movie. And as my classmates started going to theaters and checking it out, they were then completely, affirming my fears by saying that the movie is complete garbage. So I've never bothered to watch it. So, at one point I found this thing at a used DVD shop and I picked it up. I picked it up for the first two movies, but you know what? I guess now after all these years, it's really time I sat down and I gave this third one a watch, huh? So, I really have no idea if this thing is going to be any good, guys. I really have a lot of fears that it is going to completely suck. But there is still that slight chance, that ultra slim chance that this thing could possibly come out as watchable. But the only way for me to find out if it is if I shut up and I push play, and I'm going to do that right now. So, without further ado, it's time to kick back, relax, and check out Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. So let me see if I understand this. When you travel back in time or travel forward through time using this Japanese lantern thing, you swap clothes with the person you traveled your swap time periods with? Okay. Why? What the fuck is the point? No, I am fucking serious. What the hell is the point of, like, swapping clothing as you're swapping time periods? Is it just supposed to make sure that you're, like, period, correct? If so, then why does April still have a Walkman then, if that would be the circumstance? No, seriously, guys, I'm really fucking curious. This doesn't make a lick of goddamn sense. Okay, this really is bringing up even more questions. So if traveling from one time period to another causes you to change clothing with the person you're traveling with, how the hell do three of these guys still have clothing? Even though Mikey mentioned not 30 seconds ago he was wearing a pair of shorts so that way the guy who swapped with him wouldn't come through naked. How the hell or why the hell are the other three clothed? I totally understand it's a pointless thing to be bitching about, but it also is a rather large and glaring plot hole, and I'd kind of like it explained. I want to make a point real clear right now, guys. The dialogue in this movie is absolute shit. I would like to make it clear that dialogue was not that good in the first two Turtles films, but at least in those, the dialogue was decent. Here, it's fucking painful, man. I'm really dreading the next hour or so, because I have to deal with more of this shit. I really don't think it's asking for much. I'd like at least one good thing to happen in this movie, or perhaps, okay, well, maybe not good. How about something interesting? How about something that would make me actually want to continue watching this horrible fucking dreck? Give me one reason. I want this movie to give me one reason to care about what's going to happen in the next 40 minutes or so. I really don't think I'm going to get that, but that right now is all I'm looking for, is just something interesting. Wait a minute. So, these ancient Japanese swords which were supposed to be so sharp that they could cut a human's head clean off, is only able to ding a turtle's shell. No, no, fuck that. No, that's fucking stupid. I don't care if this movie was made for kids. I'm not gonna let something that absolutely retarded fly. No, fuck that. You know, guys, as much as this movie is trying to build some level of tension here, like some kind of deep, dramatic tension, it's failing miserably, partially because the costuming is shit, and the dialogue sucks, and the acting is bad. But you know what? I'm going to cover all of that when this shit piece is done. But, god damn it, this is just terrible. Thank fucking God it's done. No. I am not dealing with any more of that. I'm seeing fucking credits. I'm shutting it off. Well, guys, that was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. God, where to even start? Well, as well start with the writing. I usually do. I want to start with time travel. See, guys, if you're going to incorporate time travel into your story, there's a big thing that has to be there. There have to be constant rules and they have to be obeyed, okay? That is why Bill and Ted and Doctor Who and fucking Back to the Future and so many other things work out so well, is because they have established rules for time travel and they adhere to those rules. Here, we have rules put in place, but first of all, the rules make very little sense and they seem to be rather selective. What I mean by that is, at one point Donnie is doing some factoring, and apparently, according to him, when you go and you make your time jump, either forward or backward in time, or correction, if you go and you displace yourself with somebody else, you have 60 hours to return, otherwise you screw over the space-time continuum. Now this was a few hours after April had already swapped with somebody else, which means that her 60 hours had already started. And yet she jumps back at the same time that the Turtles do, and the Turtles were already at the end of their 60 hours. So technically either April's entire world is fucked, or the entire universe is screwed because she didn't make it back within the 60-hour window. Again, I'm just basing this entirely off of what was told in here in terms of time travel rules. One other thing which is made sort of clear early on and is then completely screwed with as the film goes on is that when you swap with somebody else from another time period, you wear whatever clothing that they wore. I don't know why, and it's never fully explained. Mikey, upon hearing that, goes and throws on a pair of shorts, and his logic is so that way whoever the hell jumps over here and takes his place doesn't jump here and be totally nude. Even though the Turtles are all wearing belts and sashes and everything in order to hold on to all of their weaponry, which technically counts as clothing, so that wouldn't jump back with them theoretically. When all of the Japanese warriors come flying back to the present and they replace our turtles, one of them is in Mikey's shorts, and that makes total sense. The other ones are all decked out in this weird bed sheet here, which looks almost like a turtle shell. I don't know why. That doesn't work with the rules given. And then when they swap back, they once more are in those white sheets, and they're seen like walking away. Now, when the Turtles jump back with them, every single one of these warriors are fully clothed when they are in New York and they're getting ready to jump back. So the Turtles, by all rights, should have been wearing what they were wearing. But they weren't. And when all of them, except for Mikey, jump back at the very end, before Mikey makes the big, reveal at the very end, spoiler there, one of them is once more in the same shorts that Mikey was wearing at the start of the film. I didn't know that warrior was only wearing those shorts and nothing else when they jumped. But again, it doesn't make a lick of sense, and it shows that the writers here did not fucking care in the slightest about time travel rules, or trying to make a story involving time travel and make it fucking coherent or good. And that, guys, is just the very tip of the god-awful iceberg of problems this movie has. We have pacing, which is absolutely horrible. We have a villain who is not threatening in the slightest. I don't care what anybody says, Walker is not a threatening villain. He frankly is just some fucking worthless British fucking like profiteer who's trying to sell guns and cannons to a bunch of Japanese warriors, so they have the edge and they're in their little war. And we have no idea if Walker's also selling we don't know if Walker was planning on selling guns to the other side as well, because that's kind of sort of what profiteers do. And knowing him and knowing exactly how slimy and scummy he is, that's probably exactly what he would have done if he didn't die at the end. Again, spoiler on that. So we have a villain who is in no way threatening, which essentially means that the conflict here ultimately feels incredibly toothless. Our dialogue is horrible, and and I'm going to say horrible by the standards set by the two previous films. I have to predicate it like that, because I know that the dialogue in the first two Turtles films weren't great, but they were at least serviceable. The dialogue worked for what it had to, do, and I'm happy with that. However, in this instance, we don't have serviceable dialogue. We have dialogue that absolutely bites hard, and that's not a good thing. So we have that, guys. We have writing here which just in general is terrible, and I could probably be here for hours just talking about the fucking horrible writing. But I'm going to sort of spare, you guys that, because otherwise it's going to be even more of me bitching about even more of the things that they were trying to set up in terms of time travel that are completely fucked over as the film goes on. Acting. Well, I mentioned that the dialogue is bad. When I say bad, I mean the dialogue in this thing is terrible. So I certainly was not expecting the actors to, actually make any of this dialogue work. However, there's something which I kind of wish that our fucking director would have done, because it would have helped at least make the film feel a little bit more realistically accurate. Now, at one point they do attempt to justify why a whole lot of these Japanese warriors are speaking English, and it's all because of trading with England, this, that, yada yada yada, and that they would have learned English by that time. Okay, I can totally understand that. I'm not absolutely sure if that is historically accurate, but okay, whatever. Then why is it that only about a quarter of these, Japanese citizens or warriors or children, what have you, why is it only about a quarter of them actually have some kind of a noticeable accent when they're speaking in English, and the rest of them have zero accent at all? I had no idea that spending a couple of years trading with the British automatically caused you to lose all semblance of a fucking accent when you're speaking English. I again understand that that is a minor thing, especially for a film that was targeted more towards kids, but I'm going to mention it because it stood out and it bothered me a little bit. And to top it all off, the acting here is terrible. And again, I know, it would be almost impossible to make any of this dialogue work. But nobody even tried. No one here attempted to emote in the slightest. And that really does come off as kind of sad, because we had the previous two Turtles films which had dialogue which kind of sucked, but the actors were able to make it work. And here we have dialogue that sucks and nobody's even trying, which is just fucking terrible. Okay, that's just, wow. I cannot think of a single actor in this film who turned in anything I'd say is even halfway good. So, I want to talk about costumes, specifically our turtle costumes. Because prior to filming here, guys, I went and I rewatched the first movie here, where the suits were all done by the Jim Henson Creature, shop, and it all looked really good, and the suits looked fantastic, and the turtles all had, markings in the first film which looked kind of natural for turtles. And here, it doesn't really look as if they have markings. It looks just sort of more like they've got, a horrible, skin fucking illness, which basically causes them to break out in black splotches. Black splotches which have a very noticeable white, outline for reasons. I'm not going to go into why, because I have no fucking clue. And the turtle shells look horribly plastic. The suits actually look horribly plastic. The eyes. When it comes to these turtle costumes, the one thing that bothered me the most was the eyes, because I watched the first one before I filmed this, and the eyes in the first film were incredibly natural looking. And I am talking almost to a creepy level, natural looking. And in this thing, the eyes are giant, they're plastic, they're fake looking. It looks terrible. It looks incredibly cheap. The turtles' mouths have these huge, fake-ass looking teeth. It looks horrible. And also the puppeteering on everything. I'm talking the turtles and on Splinter look horribly cheap, especially in comparison to the two previous films. I mean, it's just, this guy's just such a massive step, down from the previous films, just in terms of suit work. That really, if nothing else, that right there is going to yank you right the fuck out of the movie, and you're never going to be able to get yourself, you're never going to be able to get yourself immersed back in simply off of that. Everything else in terms of costuming here, at least when it comes to everything going on in ancient Japan, looks okay. I certainly have seen better, but also on the flip side, I've seen much worse. So really, there it's all kind of sort of average. The sets though look horribly cheap, except for the turtles' subway lair, which. I'm looking at it. I would almost have to hazard a guess. It's probably the same one from Turtles 2. That's the only reason why it looks like it's of some level of quality. But everything else just looks really cheap, and that again, it really does kind of impact the film. The soundtrack, well. I'm going to tell you this, amongst one of the songs I heard when Casey was showing these Japanese warriors New York, I could distinctly hear Tarzan Boy playing in one of the bars. I really don't have to say anything else. The soundtrack features fucking Tarzan Boy in it, and it fails just off of that. But just in terms of the score itself, the score itself is absolutely forgettable. I could not tell you a single piece of music in this thing that was even partially memorable. Frankly, guys, this movie is a colossal letdown when compared to the previous two films. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that while the first two films were trying to be family films, they were still in their own ways a little bit darker for the older members of the family. And Turtles 3 here seems to be catering entirely to children, and it suffers as a result. So when all is said and done, can I recommend Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3? No. The only way I could possibly recommend it is, well, if you buy something like this, because you can probably find this, 3-pack on Blu-ray for probably about $15, and $15 is good for the first two, and just basically, you basically can just kind of, avoid this third disc. It really isn't worth your time unless you wish to see how unless you want to see exactly how badly you can fuck up a sequel. This right here is probably a perfect case of how to royally screw over a sequel and also kill a franchise in general. Because guys, they could probably have made even more Turtles films if the third one was good. I'm talking in this series. They really could probably have made even more if the third one wasn't this absolutely god-awful. It probably wouldn't have been so bad if they tried to write an actual script instead of trying to throw the Turtles into some bullshit, like time, travel thing. But frankly, that right there is sort of what we are stuck with. So you kind of sort of get what is given. And what we were given absolutely sucked. So yeah, guys, you can probably avoid this one. I know a whole lot of people sadly didn't when it first came out, but you know what? I know that when I reviewed Labyrinth, I said that I had missed out because I didn't get to watch that as a kid. Looking at this, I kind of wish that I had watched this as a kid, because then I wouldn't have to bother watching it now. And after watching it now, oh god, I'm going to need to fucking wash the horrible memory out. Well, you know what? I still haven't watched my Blu-ray of Turtles 2 yet. I'm going to go watch that right now, so that way I can be reminded of how good the series was before they decided to travel back to ancient fucking Japan. So, yes, guys, with that, we come to the close of another reaction and review. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care, and I will see you all in the near future. Peace.